Hi guys, how are you doing today? Ready for new stories Ask a Lawyer prepared for you? I have 4 new ones today. All crazy. Let's go to the first one, about OP's stepmother, who installed hidden cameras into OP's room. That's spooky, guys. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I really need some advice on what to do here. I am really just lost in all this. So, some backstory. My parents have been split since I was 9, and I used to live with my mom. Up until when I was 13, I had to move, nearly 90 miles away, to live with my dad and stepmom when my mom became too sick to look after me. She lives in a care home now, so moving back in with her is not an option. The house I live in now is my stepmom's. She has owned it for like 15 years or so, and my dad moved first in with her when I was 12. They have been together for like 5 years now, but are not married as my parents are only separated, not divorced. On to the situation. This afternoon, I found a hidden camera that was fitted inside what I thought was a smoke detector, inside on the ceiling of my bedroom. I only found it because the screw holding it onto the ceiling was loose and it fell down, and when I looked at it, there was no electronics inside, only a camera-like body thing with a wire connecting a tiny lens, pointing out like maybe a 45-degree angle down towards the main part of my room. I've checked, and there was no other smoke detectors like this in any other room, and I remember my stepmom had put this up one day when I was at school, I think, when I was 14. The house, I think, only has one other security camera, which is in the doorbell and points outside. I am really struggling to think why she has this here, and I really cannot think of any other reason than to spy on me. Any suggestions on how I should bring this up to my dad, or maybe both of them? I was thinking the casual approach could be best, like, "This fell off my ceiling earlier. It looks like there's a camera inside," or something like that. I've kinda got to do it tomorrow morning anyway, because I think she will notice it's gone off the ceiling if she comes in my room. I'm in the UK if that changes anything. Thanks. I think OP needs to take photos of the camera and go directly to the police. If it's a bedroom camera and OP have been recorded without clothes at 14, if OP tells her dad, he will try to explain it away and hide it, which can end up being worse for him if it's ever found out. If OP gets straight to the police with the information that her stepmother installed it, they will investigate, and it's less likely OP's father will be connected to it. Also, it's a crime to film someone in a room where they have the expectation of privacy, and OP is a minor. Update. When I posted this, I could have come off like I was fine with it, or not angry about it like some comments have said. But it's more than that. I wasn't thinking clearly on what it was being used for. I was assuming it was like a normal camera, and she would need to take it down to view anything it recorded. Not that it's like a live feed she can view anytime, and I'm still shocked over even finding this. Honestly, feeling sick over this. I've been without clothes when getting changed and stuff in my room all the time since it was put there. I've decided from all the comments not to go to my dad first. I have taken pictures and videos of the thing like comments said, but I'll leave it hidden in my room. I am going to report it to my school's guidance counselor year head this morning and get their advice, and then depending on what they say, I will confront my dad alone this evening and secretly record the audio on my phone like suggested. I don't think she would have put it there to make sure I don't sneak out, drink, or do D. That's like not my personality or anything I would do. My relationship with my stepmom is all right. Not amazing, but not terrible. She doesn't like that I visit my mom so much and refuse to call her mom, but otherwise, we don't really talk unless we need to. The smoke detector cover thing looks exactly like this one, and it's not plugged into anything. So if it is that one, she would need to take it down every 4 hours to charge it, or it wouldn't actually be recording. Yes, my life might as well be a damn soap opera right now. So as the title says, my husband cheated on me with my stepmom. I actually had always liked my stepmom, despite how young she was, and that I always had a feeling she was only with my dad for financial stability. Honestly, not really my business, and my dad is a pretty terrible man. So not much pity for him and his love life. My stepmom is an attractive woman. She's fit and looks even younger than she is. She's charismatic. I lived with my mom after my dad left my mom for my stepmom, Lucy. I have always believed that the person you should be angry at in an affair is the one who should care about hurting you. So I always placed the blame on the coward of a father, not Lucy. Sure, it's not good to get involved with a married man, but she didn't know my mother or my sisters and me. My dad should be the one we are angry at. And we were, for a really long time. But the affair and subsequent divorce happened over a decade ago. I've accepted it, and though I'm not close with Lucy or my dad, I didn't harbor anger towards either, especially not her. My husband and I met in college, married a year ago. If I was asked to write down my perfect partner on paper, I would have written down something that describes him. He was affectionate, open about his feelings, doting, sweet, very attractive, and so on. He's a firefighter, and I'm not going to lie, it played into a serious fantasy of mine. The romantic life has always been insanely good, and I've never been so turned on by another human being. He happily fulfilled every fantasy I've ever told him about. In an effort to become closer to my husband and me, my dad started reaching out a lot in the last year. We started going over to their house for dinner every couple of weeks, and my dad took my husband out on his boat a few times for bonding. My dad is very, very well off financially, but I've always refused any help from him. He tries, but I turn him down. Finally, he asked if he could hire my husband to do several maintenance-type odd jobs. He offered a pretty ridiculous overpay, but I left it up to my husband, and my husband accepted. He ended up screwing my stepmom for about 3 months, until he came to bed one night and buried his head in my chest and just started sobbing. He told me everything. My guess about what scared him into confessing? She got pregnant and miscarried. So he didn't even use protection. Yes, I threw up a couple of times after he told me, if you're wondering. This post isn't about what I should do about my marriage. That came out 2 months ago. We're already in the process of divorce. I'm no fool, and I simply won't tolerate infidelity, especially not when it involves my family. Gross. I have a pretty good job, no children with him, and I have a lot to offer as a partner. It was a no-brainer for me. Bye, hubby. My reason for posting is that no one knows the real reason behind the divorce aside from my husband, Lucy, and me. And it's killing me inside because I'm incredibly close with my sister and mom. Lucy came to me after I found out, crying and begging me not to tell anyone. At first, I was like, "You're out of luck, crazy lady." But she did bring up some good points. My sisters have started to become really close with my dad again. Even my mom has been getting along with him and Lucy. Last Christmas was the first Christmas we spent all together at my dad's place, and honestly, it was great. My sisters both have children, and my dad has been a really great grandfather. He adores them. He seems happy for the first time since I can remember. If I tell my dad, he won't divorce Lucy. This I can promise you. He just won't. Which means she will be around at family functions. If I tell my mom and sisters, and then my dad doesn't leave Lucy, he will be as good as dead to the family. They will never speak to him again, and won't get to see his grandchildren again. Any ounce of respect he regained will be gone. I can handle seeing Lucy from time to time, though I hate her now, of course, as she should have cared about hurting me when she had S with my husband. I don't know what to do. I should get a therapist, and I'm looking into it. As far as everyone, even my lawyer, knows, my husband was unfaithful with a stranger. So, do I just tell my dad? Do I tell everyone? Do I hold all this in to the grave? I'm honestly at a loss. First, never lie to your lawyer. It's generally a bad idea. I would definitely tell sisters only because Lucy obviously can't be trusted around other people's husbands. I would tell Dad as well, since he deserves to know. Also, Lucy isn't worried about being divorced. Lucy is worried about being disinherited. Whether OP says anything or not, I guarantee you that there's going to be a nasty fight in 10-20 years over OP's father's estate. OP may want to start getting those details set in stone now, while OP's father is alive and coherent enough to manage his own affairs. The best part is, Lucy is in the worst possible position to fight OP right now. Any overt resistance she puts up will be quickly shut down by a meaningful look from OP. Edit. Just adding a side note here. I am not trying to protect Lucy. She could trip and fall and be impaled on a gigantic D and no longer have a functioning V, and I would throw a party. That's not what's happening here, but I am trying to protect my family. I am nearly positive my dad will stay with her. He's over 70 years old, and with his track record with women, no respectable woman will date him. If he did grow a pair and leave Lucy, the best he could hope for is another gold digger. He knows that. I know that. Now we all know that. He's comfortable with Lucy. I doubt he'll give that up just to find another woman who will cheat on him and spend his money. My dad is a despicable man, but he's my dad, and somehow I still love him, and I don't want to watch him lose his relationship with my sisters and their children. I also don't want to be the one to tell my dad. It may be selfish, but the thought of telling him scares me to death. Just to have to deliver that news to my own father. Shudder. I did get tested for STIs and came back negative for all, thankfully. I also had a pregnancy test done, because the craziest thing is that my husband and I were starting to try for a child just before all this came out. I am one lucky lady that my eggs said no thanks to that. Me again. For all those who chewed me a new a-hole for being a dumbass, thank you. I am a straight shooter. I appreciate any suggestions and opinions. It seems the general consensus is to tell my dad and mom and siblings. I know you are all right. I can't keep this in, and I shouldn't. I think I will tell my mom first, because she's one of those moms that is so in love with her children that she'll probably just cry with me. Repeatedly tell me how much she loves me while squeezing me in a hug so hard I feel like I'm going to die, and then spoon me all night. And honestly, nothing sounds better than that right now. Plus, no one knows better than my mom that my dad is a lumpy bag of dusty D. So she will probably have good advice on how to tell him and how we should all go forward as a family in the aftermath, no matter how he reacts. It's just hard to think about giving up the peace and unity we have found as a family recently. Anyone who comes from a broken home like me knows that feelings of stability and love are craved, and once you get it, it's hard to give it up. But every day isn't going to be like last Christmas was, and they have a right to know and decide on their own how to proceed from here. A few of you brought up that Lucy will inherit a lot of money if he stays with her. Thank you. I am so far detached from his wealth that I didn't think extensively about how much she has to gain from his death and how much she has to lose in a divorce. Nothing would make me happier and feel more like a beautiful badass than to get her cut out of my dad's will. Imagine me rubbing my hands together maniacally right now. My dad remarried when I was 8, a few years after my mom passed away. I thought we were close, and I had a decent relationship with my stepmom, 55, and stepsister, 27, until this all went down. My stepsister and her husband have a 3-year-old daughter. When our parents found out she was expecting, they went all out. They let them move in with them, paid, and I did everything to set up a nursery, hosted a baby shower, etc. When they found out I was pregnant, my dad was incredibly cold and barely asked me about my health or the baby. Meanwhile, he was all over his step-granddaughter. The only nice thing they did for me was send me the baby blanket my mom embroidered for me when my son was born. They only came to see him after a whole month and barely tried to visit after that, and would make excuses when I tried to visit them. I got pregnant from a one-night stand during an event I went to with my best friend. I had no idea who the dad was outside from a first name. When my family shunned me, I became obsessed with figuring out who the dad was. It took a lot of internet stalking and a whole month before I finally found his contact info. By this time, I was already 5 months pregnant. He was shocked when he found out, but insisted he wanted to be a part of his child's life. We started dating and living together full-time when our son was 9 months. I've withdrawn a lot from my family, and so I never introduced them to my boyfriend. However, my grandmother has met him and insisted I include him during our video chats. A month ago, my dad was over at hers whilst she was video chatting me. She wanted to see our son, who was playing with his dad, so I asked him to bring him over. My dad saw him and started asking questions. Who he was, what his job was, how long we've been together, etc. I tried to be vague, but I'm assuming my grandmother told him everything because he started asking me why I never told him I knew who the father was and why I never introduced him to him. I told him I didn't think he would care. Ever since, he's been asking non-stop to come see my son. My stepmother and stepsister have all asked to come over too. My stepsister sent me a long message about how she hopes our children will be close as us and we should set up play dates. I really don't know what to do now, so any advice on how to proceed would be helpful. If OP's dad treated OP poorly before he knew who OP's son's father was, then he doesn't deserve to suddenly become super involved. They have made it clear that they don't offer unconditional love. What they are offering OP's son is the same kind of love they have shown to OP. It's not irrational or bitter to be a bit cautious about letting them get close to son so he's attached to them, only to one day turn around and treat him the way they treated OP. OP should concentrate on providing a good life for her child. It's fine for him to meet that side of the family when OP is ready. They have shown what kind of people they are, and no amount of apologizing or hearing how OP... My stepmom has never been the greatest person to me or my brother. She's not a bad person, but she really doesn't care about us at all. Like, she'll go to get food for her kids and herself, but not for us. She went to an amusement park with her kids and not us. I get she has no obligation to us at all, but after 3 years of being married to my dad, it's clear she has no interest in getting closer to us. Last week after hockey, I called my dad to pick me up. He is 40, by the way. He said my stepmom would pick me up instead, since he had to work a night shift. Okay, I called her, and she said she would be there in 30 minutes. Everyone left, and a few people asked if I needed a ride somewhere, but I said no, since my stepmom was probably almost here. An hour went by, so I called again. She said she was really sleepy and wanted to take a nap, so I should get a ride with someone. Nobody was there, so I texted her that, and she said just take the bus. I was pissed, but since it was only for a day, I started walking. The walk isn't too bad, just a couple miles. But it was around midnight, and not in the best neighborhood. I was walking pretty fast, but some guy cut me off and tried to take my backpack. I fought back, but another guy came up and started hitting me, so I gave up and lost all my stuff. I was pretty beat up and obviously scared as duck. I didn't have my phone, so I had to walk to a gas station and ask the employee for his. I should have probably called the cops, but I called my dad instead, and he left work to come get me. I thought my dad would be angry at his wife, but he said that I have to understand that she is probably very tired. She doesn't even have a ducking job right now, and the only job hunting she does is on some website that looks for you. When we got home, she didn't even care much. I told her I got robbed, and she said, "Wow, we are paying so much for you to play in a hockey league, and you can't even defend yourself." I get that was a joke, but I was really hurt. Anyways, my question is, am I right to feel that my stepmom is at fault for me getting jumped? I hate her right now, but she makes my dad so happy, and I don't know what to do. Should I talk with her or something? Or just think of this as a freak occurrence and keep on with my life? No, that's not how that works. She's OP's stepmom. She didn't just take OP's dad into her family. She took OP as well. It is her job to protect OP, just as it is to keep her other kids safe. I'll bet money that if OP's father had let one of her kids get beat up, she would be furious. OP's stepmother is a B, and OP's father needs to grow a spine and stand up for OP, his child. OP should have a talk with father and explain to him that he was counting on her, and because of her inability to be a responsible adult, he got hurt. The fact that neither of them seem to care is very, very worrisome.